Hi, everyone. Hi, Karen. Both Karens.
Hello, hello.
Hi. We will give it a moment for people to keep joining. Nice to see everybody.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Hola. Nice to see everyone. Thanks for joining. We're just going to give it one more minute for some last minute people to join. Although I'm sure people will be joining for a little bit. Okay. I think we will go ahead and get started, and we'll just keep admitting people as they come. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We had a lot of interest in this roundtable discussion, so I'm super excited that you are all here joining us to talk about this. So, of course, the topic is staying connected to purpose in a year of cuts and collapse, because, of course, this year has been an interesting one. So we wanted to talk about just kind of like opening up a space to have this kind of honest conversation in community where we're talking all about burnout and capacity and staying connected to purpose under pressure. So just a quick welcome. My name is Nina. I'm the founder of Sunflower Communications. And Sunflower, I'll just briefly introduce us for those who don't know us. I think everybody knows us, but we are a communications agency. And so we help nonprofits, social enterprises, entrepreneurs, accelerator programs, foundations, kind of everybody in the impact sector. We help them with their communication strategies, content creation, capacity building, all that kind of stuff that goes into speaking to your target audience through digital platforms and just strengthening your overall communications to ultimately have a better impact on the ground. And so, yeah, because of that, we wanted to open this space to talk about everything that has happened this year and just how everybody's kind of dealing with it, because of course, burnout is it's really on the rise. I think it always is in the impact sector, but especially this year. So that's what we're here to kind of talk about, just hear from everybody. And if everybody doesn't mind just keeping yourselves on mute, that would be super helpful. So we also have Natalie from the Sunflower team. She will be in the chat and helping me just kind of like with logistics on this call. So Natalie, I don't know if you want to say hi.
Hello. I'm going to be monitoring the chat, so I'll see everyone there.
Yeah. And then we also have Emiliano from Rutopía in Mexico and Joyce from Safi Organics in Kenya, who are our co-hosts, and I'll introduce them in a moment. So they're also on this call. So feel free to put any questions or any thoughts, anything in the chat throughout the entire time, and all of us will kind of be in there with you. And then, so we do have a couple kind of main themes that we're going to talk about. And there will be opportunities for everybody to speak throughout. And then at the end, we're going to stay on. So probably the presentation will take, or the conversation rather, will take about an hour. And then Natalie and myself, we will stay on for an additional half an hour afterwards in case anybody wants to stay on to ask any questions or speak about anything at all. So it will be an hour. At an hour, we'll say thank you and goodbye. But if you want to stay on, you can. And these are just our website, social platforms, if you would like to connect with us. So, I guess I kind of got ahead of myself here, but this is why we're here today. We're not this isn't supposed to be a major presentation or a panel or a pitch or anything. It's more supposed to be a pause and a time for everybody to come together. And so we're by no means experts or providing solutions. We just want to have a space where we're sharing stories and reflecting on how do we stay connected to purpose during times of burnout and change, and how do we build resilient, aligned teams with even fewer resources. So I'm really excited to hear from everybody, to hear about all of your experiences and thoughts on these topics. And then just a couple, housekeeping items. Again, we don't expect anybody to be experts. We just want to hear from you. And then when we do open it up to for everybody to kind of speak, we'll turn it over. We have our guest speakers, but then we'll each kind of turn it over to the audience, and everybody will have an opportunity to speak up if you like. So just a reminder to raise your Zoom hand before you speak, and then Natalie will help me go in the order queued. So we'll just kind of call on your name, and then you can come off mute and speak up. And just because we want to be mindful of time, just kind of if everybody can just take a minute or so to speak, and then we'll move on. And then, like I said, you can always feel free to type your questions or anything, comments in the chat as well. And feel free to stay on camera, stay off camera, whatever you like to do. We're just happy to have you here. Okay, so now I want to introduce you to your host. So of course I already introduced myself, and then I'm going to pass it over to Emiliano to introduce himself.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. Emiliano here. Thanks so much, Nina and Natalie, for opening this space. I think it's a very good moment for having this conversation all together. I'm very happy to see that there's plenty of people here and I'm also very happy to see that there's a lot of people from Miller Center sitting over there in a big table. Hello, everyone. And yes, just to tell you a little bit about me and Rutopía. As Nina was saying, I'm based in Mexico City. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Rutopía. We are a social enterprise based here in Mexico City. Well, in all Mexico, we operate in Mexico City. And what we do is we basically identified that there's hundreds of small rural communities that are already seeing ecotourism, community tourism as a way to develop in a sustainable way and as a way of preserving their nature, their culture, stopping migration, and putting a barrier on a lot of the big obstacles and challenges that they have in their communities. But at the same time, they have these ideas, these amazing experiences, but many of them have very strong barriers to actually connect to the tourism value chain and reach their correct travelers that are really going to value what they have to offer. So in Rutopía, what we do is we are building a platform that fortifies this kind of small hosts in rural areas in Mexico, and we connect them to the tourism value chain, mainly for international travelers who are looking to travel in a different way, more authentic, and having a positive impact in the communities they visit. We have been doing this for 7 years now, and it's been quite a ride. And this is some of the numbers from our impact report of last year. And just to give you some key things, all the network of hosts that we work with all together, they're preserving more than 100,000 hectares here in Mexico, mainly of rainforest and local ecosystems. There's more than 4,000 people that are working in the projects that we work with. And last year we hit a very big milestone by generating more than $2.4 million of revenue for these small enterprises. So still a lot of growth to go in the future. And these are some of the key things we have achieved so far. And I'm gonna pass the mic to Joyce.
Thanks, Emiliano. And hi, everyone. I can see that we are dialed in 30 people. Thank you for creating this time. So my name is Joyce Kamande. I'm a co-founder and the head of operations in Safi Organics. So welcome, everyone. Excited to be sharing this space with you. And I've been running Safi Organics for the last 10 years. We just actually closed our anniversary this February. And what we do is we make organic fertilizers using technology designed together with MIT to decentralize and small-scale fertilizer production. So the main aim here is leverage on available local biomass waste, also use locally available technology and convert this into something that we call biochar. And then from biochar, we do value addition and make organic fertilizer. So it's eco-certified, is certified by the end of the country through agro dealers. So here in Kenya or Africa, we call them agrovets, if you may so wish. So we spend these fertilizers and sell them across the country to over 12,000 smallholder farmers. So currently we are working with around almost 18,000 smallholder farmers. And what we have done over the years, we have collected data working with smallholder farmers. And averagely, we would report that the impact is around 30% increase in yields. And this fertilizer is affordably, I would say, 30 to 40% lower than the cost of the other synthetic fertilizers available in the market, majorly because we avoid a lot of logistical costs. But then we are also in conversation with the government to have our fertilizer embodied into the subsidized program. So that will make it even more affordable to these smallholder farmers. And lastly, as we talk about the impact in climate, our fertilizer is able to sequester about 1.5 to 1.7 tons of CO2 per acre of land per year that our product is used. We are currently operating at almost closing to 20 tons per day production capacity. So it's just a startup, but now we are at the scale-up model where we want to set up and show that a commercial plant can be set up in Africa, and we are the first people to get our product in granulated form. So if you see organic fertilizer product from Safi compared with synthetic, a farmer now can familiarize that, it's an organic fertilizer that almost looks like a synthetic fertilizer. So happy to share this space with you and delve into this topic and of course interact with the audience. Back to you, Nina.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joyce and Emiliano. We're super excited to have you here with us. Okay, so let's hop into the actual topics of today. So, of course, we are talking about a year of cuts and collapse. Of course, this year, everybody knows, with the closure of US aid and funding being redirected, there was record demand, shrinking funding, and of course, staff burnout, all while everybody is trying to stay aligned to their mission and still continue to have an impact. So we kind of identified three main themes. So the first one, theme number one, is what I'll be talking about, mental load and mission drift. Then Emiliano will talk about capacity and redefining success. And then lastly, Joyce will go into speaking about rebuilding internal rhythm. So theme number one, mental load and mission drift. So these are some stats that we found that we thought were pretty impactful, just to kind of highlight how burnout is really close. And I think everybody kind of already feels this and knows this, but the stats kind of make it a little bit more real almost. So 95% of nonprofit leaders express some level of concern about burnout, and over 1/3 report that staff burnout has very much been a concern over the past year. And I think especially since COVID, this has been even more true. And then of course this year even more with USAID. So 76% of leaders say that staff burnout is at least slightly impacting their organization's ability to achieve its mission. So it's not even just impacting staff and their lives, but it's also impacting the ability to achieve the mission, which is pretty huge. And then 31% of nonprofit professionals cite excessive workload as their primary burnout cause, while 38% point to lack of support or resources. And so we all know that lack of resources, especially in the impact sector, is always an issue. So kind of putting this into our lens, so a little bit more about my personal experience as a social entrepreneur, running a small business, Sunflower Communications, we really noticed that this year, always in the impact sector, it's hard to kind of help with communications, because we find that teams are always stretched thin in this sector, of course. And so now with even more reduced funding, teams are leaning more heavily on us for that strategy and execution, which is really great because of course we have a lot to offer, but at the same time, there's a lot less resources to do so. And we find that teams are more burnt out. And so for us as a small company, our challenge has been how do we kind of not take on our clients' burnout, but actually help to make sure that we are providing strategies for communications so that they can continue to reach their audiences and continue to have an impact without burning them out even more. So it's kind of this balancing act that we're finding ourselves in, which I would say is something that in the impact sector is kind of always something that we have to balance, but this year has been way more obvious in terms of this kind of like balancing act. And so then for me personally, and I want to hear from everybody else too about your kind of personal experiences with this. It's kind of the point to share stories. Managing that emotional load as a leader, as the entrepreneur. So for me, myself, earlier this year, I definitely faced near burnout, not necessarily from the workload, but actually just from the weight of supporting clients and team and worrying about the sector and carrying the future of the company and worrying about the impact that our clients are able to have or not have, or just in general, the stories that you would hear from USAID cut funding in countries around the whole world. And so that emotional load definitely weighed on me a lot this year. And so it's been like that kind of self-care has come into play a lot. I think probably a lot of people can relate to that. And then kind of shifting the lens again back to our clients, we found that we need to kind of encourage everybody to resist the allure of quick fixes. So because everybody kind of needs more funding and they need it now or yesterday, we need to kind of explain to everybody that reinforcing meaningful communications outcomes require consistency, time, and patience. And there kind of is no quick fix. You know, you're from one day to the next, you can all of a sudden have a strong communication strategy with a whole bunch of new donors coming in through the door. It really takes that consistency, time, and patience, and you can't just kind of put a Band-Aid over it. And so through that, we've had to help our clients and organizations reconnect with their why. So really going back to kind of that brand identity work and addressing their mission drift. So it's not about just, okay, we need money, we need funding, we need donors, we need supporters now. It's okay, staying connected to your mission through your brand identity, going back to why. Why are you doing this work? What is the impact you're having and also trying to have, and aligning yourself with that. So then we can kind of create a more sustainable plan over time that again requires that patience and time, but is much more sustainable. And so that's also kind of been something that we've had to, for ourselves and for our clients, and just kind of everybody that we talk to in the impact sector, we're kind of saying, okay, let's bring it back to your why. You know, Simon Sinek always says, align yourself with your why. What is your why? So we're kind of reiterating that and bringing it back down to the basic level, but it's such a foundational part of everything that we're doing when you're trying to communicate to anybody, whether you're doing a pitch for funding or, you know, writing a grant application to a foundation or anything. It's as long as you're kind of staying aligned to that purpose of what you're doing in the first place, that's where then it will be like a sustainable plan and you'll get those donors that you've been wanting to get in through the door. So it's just been interesting kind of noticing how, because when we get close to burnout and close to stress, and well, not close to stress, very stressed, it's so easy to kind of have that mission drift and forget and just kind of go towards the quick fixes or trying to find a quick fix. So that's just been really interesting and kind of what we've seen. And as a social entrepreneur myself, just managing my burnout and stress at the same time as speaking to our clients and speaking to other people in the sector, and just kind of feeling this collective burnout and stress and worry for the future of all of our organizations. I think there is a collective worry as well, also just for the world in general. So I'm curious, that's been kind of my lens and my experience. Of course, I have one perspective and one type of business. Of course, Emiliano, Joyce, everybody has their own businesses, which are all very different, which is, I think, is what makes this conversation really interesting, is that we all come from very different backgrounds and business models. So I want to turn it over to all of you, the audience, and ask you, what's one unspoken mental load your team has been carrying this year, and how is it shaping or distorting your sense of purpose? And you don't have to answer this question specifically. You can kind of just talk about this topic in general if you like. So if you don't mind just putting up your virtual hand, and Natalie will help, queue up. But you can also put it in the chat if anyone has anything to add. And Emiliano and Joyce, if you have any thoughts on this topic as well, please feel free. Don't be shy.
I can jump in while someone other is.
Yeah, well, Leska, I saw you put up your hand. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit of what is happening in my team. And especially because of what you have been saying about cutting of fundings, the companies have been changing. And one of the things that my team is worried about is about losing their jobs. Even if, thankfully for us, we still have enough funding for this year, and we are looking for more for next year, they still have in their minds that they might lose their job this year. So that makes for them to not stop doing their job, but I can see that their passion is getting low. I don't know how to explain it. And so it's hard for us, because then it's, how can we tell them, no, it's not going to happen, because that would be also a lie. But just to tell them that they can still believe in the purpose of what we are doing and what the organization means.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's exactly mission drift. And so have you actually had any conversations with them about like how
Yes.
so far?
Yes. So we assured them that this year we are all keeping our jobs. But as I say, we don't know about next year. And I cannot lie to them about that. I say that we are looking for ways to have more people to help and all of that. But it still is in their minds, okay, if I am not losing my job this year, what is going to happen next year? And it's hard, because we have monthly meetings too. And it's hard for me to stay there and just keep telling them that they are doing a great job, that we are doing something with purpose, that we are helping the communities in Guatemala, and just remove from them the thought of, yes, but it's only going to happen this year.
Yeah, that's really tough. I can only imagine, especially with larger teams. Yeah, really tough to kind of reassure them and keep them aligned with your mission and doing that why work that I was talking about, and that brand identity work. That kind of also only goes so far if they're really concerned about how they're going to pay their bills next year. So I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts. I saw Pravina, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, I can speak from being on the other side of that. So I was this year, one of my clients, they lost funding. So it's a startup and they lost funding, and they had to basically had that conversation of we need to let you go. And it is something I've been building with them for 2 years. And knowing the mission and knowing the why and having that constant conversation is so important, because in that moment it was, I do want to continue building with them. I do want to continue working with them, and we can figure out a different model and see what that looks like. So I still managed to continue with them because the why is so strong. And even last week, I was speaking to one of the founders, and she was just sharing about the mission and why she's doing it. And it fired me up so much to look at the work that I'm doing, but in a different way. I was like, I'm ready to learn and not just do the work. And mind you, this is not a paid thing. So, but having the founder come in and be like, I'm still here, I'm still building this, I still really want to. I know money is very important for a lot of people. That is their sense of everything, like that's the foundation for their life. So it's a difficult one, but going back to what Nina was saying about why, it can bring some people to just be on that journey with you while you build in a very strong way. Like with them, I'm building with them for life for as long as the startup goes, because I'm in it for the mission. I believe in the founders, I believe in what they're doing. And I've worked in teams like this. And if you have people who are working for the why, the constant reassurance or sharing of the message or your why or what you're going through. And yeah, it really, really helps. So
Yeah.
just seconding what Nina was saying with some personal experience.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I feel inspired because it is true. Like when you really believe in what you're doing, it's like you'll find a way. Whereas if you're not connected to the purpose or the why of what you're doing, you kind of just feel defeated. You don't feel like pushing through and finding a way. But when there's a will, there's a way. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think we'll move on to the next topic. So I will pass it over to Emiliano.
Awesome. Thanks, Nina, and great conversation. So, as Nina was saying, this was a tough year, and in general, it has been very interesting months of redefining a lot of things, 2024, 2025. And, as capacity and the availability of funding shrinks, it's also very important to redefine success. So there's 3 key points I would like to highlight here. One, it's the fact that funding crunches, it's there, and it's also at the same time that maybe there is more need for this kind of funding for a lot of the enterprises and the NGOs in the field. There's a very hard fact that I learned here from Nina, and that 60% of social impact organizations actually saw a reduced funding in 2024. So this is a pretty tough number. And then the second point is we were in Rutopía, we actually were one of the affected organizations because of this. I don't know, I'm sure a lot of people here in this call were also affected in some way, directly or indirectly, because of the USAID shutdown. But a very hard number over here is that over 14 million people, there's could be, because of all of this disruption, there could be more than 14 million available deaths in the next years. That's pretty harsh. But at the same time, and we've seen this a lot with the impact investors that we work with and in general in the ecosystem, I think this whole restructuring on how the funding works is actually launching, and it's making a lot of more NGOs and donors go towards impact investment. Actually, I was just today with a big NGO in Spain, and they were talking about redirecting more of their funds from philanthropy to impact investment to just make sure that the projects are sustainable in the long run. So I think these are 3 very key topics at this moment. Now, in the from our perspective in Rutopía, I will tell you the brief story of how we lived through the whole disruption at the beginning of this year, and also what are our key takeaways from this, which are these 5 points that I put in this slide. But just to give you a little bit of the context, as I was mentioning at the beginning, in Rutopía, what we do is we're basically the platform that connects all of these amazing providers on the field with the travelers that are looking for these amazing vacations that have a positive impact. However, as we've been operating in these last years, we realized that there's many small communities that really have amazing products and very nice experiences, but sometimes they need a little bit of a push to actually get to the quality or the levels needed to provide the best touristic services, also in a very safe and sustainable way. And we realized for that, we would actually need to have a blended finance model in which we could have also philanthropy entering this sense. So we started designing a very amazing project, 5-year project with USAID, that was basically focused on fortifying all of these small communities that are seeing sustainable tourism, regenerative tourism, as a way to protect their environment. So we started this, and just to give you a little bit of the timeline, we launched the first pilot on mid-2024, the beginning of 2024. We had very, very good results. The pilot was going amazing good, and the plan was to first have a year of pilot and then scale it, and over the next 4 years, expand it to hundreds of communities in Mexico. And as you might already imagine, at the beginning of 2025, we just received a very short email saying that we would have to stop from one day to another all the operations. And we were working at the moment with more than 250 people on the field with this project, and we're like already using the systems that we were developing. So yes, at the beginning it was a very big shock, and of course the way we were developing the whole project was not in a way that we could continue completely without the support of this very big partner. So we would have to think a lot about capacity, and also re-understanding what does it mean success for this project, and what does it mean success for this kind of hybrid blended finance model for Rutopía. Now, that was in the moment. Now today, so many months after, I can say, and this is a similar sensation for me as after the pandemic, that we learned a lot from this shock. I'm actually seeing it now. It might have been a very good thing for us to go through all of this, because it made us make very hard decisions, but also I think decisions that are for the best of the systemic change Rutopía wants to make in the long term. And my 5 key takeaways from this are, in the first place, we have to build resilience through diversified financing. Like, we cannot be defining success by the request or the needs of one donor. And that was key for us. We, fortunately, our budget not depended completely for USAID. We only had part of it. And we have other impact investors, and we have loans. We have a very diversified structure of financing, and of course our operational cash flows. And that was the reason we could actually go forward with the project and decide to continue. Of course, we had to shrink it, but we didn't stop it. And now actually there's all of the beneficiaries are still receiving the benefits of the project even after USAID. So for me, this was a very, very important lesson, and just to keep just building resilience by having a very diversified portfolio of donors or financiers. Then the second point is treating philanthropy as catalytic, not core. And this is probably one of the most important things for us. And after all of this show, we had to really look at all of the activities that we were making and really understand which of these activities are being financed to create something, like to build a machine, and which of these things are for running the machine. I don't know if this was a very good metaphor, but what I mean is that we have to use the funding of philanthropy, or at least this is the conclusion for Rutopía. We have to use the philanthropy as a way to build something that can be sustainable in the mid or near long term, but not as a way to subsidize our everyday costs. And this was a decision that we made for ourselves for the next years, and for our strategy also for fundraising in this sense. The third one is focusing on we can execute with excellence. And this is very important. We realized that we really have to focus, just as in the business model, and you have to focus on really what you're good at. When you're executing a project for a donor, or you're making this, you really have to make sure where you are adding value, and in where do you have a biggest social return investment for what you're doing. And I think sometimes when there's a third party that is making this financiation, you could be a little bit more relaxed in this sense. But when the money is coming directly from your operations, you have to be much more strict with this, or at least that's the reflection we had at the moment. So we had to really see where are we the best ones executing these kind of projects and continue with these efforts, and maybe the other ones stop them at the time. And the fourth point, which I believe was one of the things that we had more resistance to accept and to analyze, but I think as time passed, we were able to see it better, is that we really have to understand who are we serving and who's our final customer. And we realized that we want to add value, of course, for the travelers, for the people who are traveling in Rutopía, and also for all the hosts and the people in the communities that we're working with. So we want to make sure that everything that we're doing, any activity that we're doing, is actually adding value in this value chain, and is giving something that it's really have a sustained value in time. And when we looked back and saw a lot of the activities that we were making, we realized that we were not serving any of these two clients. For many of these activities, we're serving this third client. We were like really doing some things just to check on the compliance of some of the donors at the moment. So for us now, it's a very important role in Rutopía. Now that we are like looking again for catalytic capital or philanthropy, is that the projects that we go really have to be completely aligned to the needs of our host on the communities, and make sure that it doesn't disalign us in this sense. And yeah, just have the true customer on the center at all times. And then I think this is very generic in terms of any crisis. We've seen it a couple of times in Rutopía, but I think it's worth mentioning it. And it's just anytime there's a shock and there's this kind of pressure, it also allows us to focus. And I think for startups in the stage that we are, focus is what, I mean, I think it's one of the key things for actually winning the game in the long term. So it really made us focus. And like, as I said at the beginning, after going through all this roller coaster that I'm not saying I would recommend it to anyone, but after seeing all of this, we can really see that there's some good things we got from this and good learnings from these first 3 quarters of 2025. And now I would like to open this question for everyone here, and it's, what's a hard truth about capacity you've had to make peace with this year? And as Nina said, I mean, this is like the question, but if you just would like to comment or compliment on the points that I said, please feel free to do so.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I really appreciated a lot of the points that you touched on, Emilio, because we did a lot of shifting of our focus as well, to try to really make sure that we gave our best effort to where it was sustainable. A lot of your points were really how we had to shift as well in our community. You know, once our partners and our sponsorships were shifting, we just realized, okay, we can't do everything. We can only do what we can do, and what we can do well, you know, and what will make a change and an impact in the community. So hearing you say that just makes me feel like, okay, good, I made the right choice to shift, and I think that will also make the rest of my team feel a little bit more comfortable as well.
Thanks for that. Yes, totally.
Joyce, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just maybe just to amplify what Emiliano just presented, is more so that with the shocks that came with the withdrawal of the USAID, it made most of entrepreneurs or non-governmental organizations to step back a little bit, think clearly and clarity, and more so on sustainability. In regards probably with what Emiliano said, you know, you get to the mission and the reason why, and no, I don't necessarily need this kind of grant because they are pulling me towards a certain direction. So again, getting back to why did you do this? Is this beneficial to your clients? Is this along the roadmap that you are following? So I think it was a step back on the other hand. So it is challenging, yes. It was unexpected, it's a shock. However, these are some of the advantages that, you know, can see that Rutopía grew an extra mile. Probably if that didn't happen, they will not be where they are, or they have not taken the different step that they did take. So, and also the fact that for me, what they had truth about capacity, what they have taught me is that, and I have to make peace with that, is that most of the time we relied on the farmers training, probably from, you know, from non-government organization or even USAID. We had to bootstrap within our own organization to maximize on that. Because at the end of the day, it's about the numbers, but you know, those are the core things and activities that we should actually do to attract more clientele into our organization. However, we saw that, you know, probably this is the kind of comfort zone that we had already created, and we needed to depend on certain kind of organization to really help us. So that is still ongoing, but on minimal level. However, it also helped us to build a stronger team within our own organization to do this better, even internally. Yeah.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, no? Nice.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, yeah, building that resilience. And when Emiliano, when you said this year, post everything that happened, well, I mean, it's still happening, but post the initial shock with USAID, it was kind of like after COVID, after that initial shock, everybody kind of got used to it in a way, and it became the new normal, and you kind of just find a way to move forward under the new circumstances. and if you're kind of going back to what I was saying in the first point, like if you are aligned with your why and your passion of why you're doing this in the first place, you will push forward and figure out how to figure out how to do it under the new circumstances. And so it is, I kind of felt the same. I thought about this so many times this year, like, okay, what's happening right now with USAID feels so similar to how I felt during COVID. And here we are 5 years later, we're still alive, we're still figuring it out. So it's kind of like, we'll figure this out too. And I think we already are. So that's exciting in a way. Yeah. Did anybody else want to contribute or say something about this topic before we move on to the next one? Okay, let me move on then. So over to you, Joyce, for topic number 3.
Yeah, for our theme number 3 is we'll be focusing more on rebuilding internal rhythm. So probably focusing on the the internal, in this case, the employees or even internal stakeholders that you're working with. So, for example, staff turnover and reactive workflows. So that has been affected globally, and many organizations have reported that there's an increased staff turnover in reactive workflows, leading to fractured internal rhythm and diminished ability to stay purpose-driven. And of course, that is expected, because if you have a very high turnover of staff or increased turnover, it's not a really good thing. And reactive workflows. So rather than employees being proactive, they're becoming reactive, because I think there's a lot of burden that is coming in, a lot of shocks, and there are a lot of cuts. As we spoke, as the theme of this topic today, the cuts and collapse. So the first thing that comes in is most people have not been resilient over time, and so when there are those cuts, they collapse, and it seems like it's we are dipping into the dead end. However, there's still hope at the end of the day. So, however, that is what has been structured, and this research was carried by Walden University. And then on our second point is on social entrepreneurs deliver sustainable, substantial job creation, and a clear focus in sub-Saharan Africa, because across the region, social enterprises have created 28 to 41 million jobs, becoming key economic drivers outside of government-led sectors. So this is a research that's been carried out by our big supporters, Miller Center for Global Impact. So what this means is that social entrepreneurs are creating local rural jobs within their own sector. And 41 million jobs is not a simple number. And it's actually almost a double fold of what the government is offering on opportunities. And especially with the young, high population of the young people within sub-Saharan Africa, there's no way out. Social entrepreneurs and social enterprises have to create these kind of opportunities with the continued increase in population. The other point is on innovation via impact capital, talking about 1.57 trillion in impact assets under management and growing at 21% CAGR since 2019. There's a rising momentum for aligning purpose with sustainable capital, key for restoring internal consistency. So that is also been a research with the Global Impact Investing Network. And so what this shows is that apart from just investing, there's a very close and a very high momentum, or I would say there's inflow, and there's a lot of inflow on impact investment. So rather than just, somebody's doing a business, there's no social metrics or impact metrics that is being carried out. We have seen a closer appealing, and people are getting into the space of impact investment. So there's more impact capital coming in. So, and that has been very much appealing to investors, as well as making social entrepreneurs to also, do something extra apart from chasing profits. What are kind of the impact are they creating within the society and within the all relevant stakeholders and the people they serve? Nina, to the next slide. So what we have done in Safi Organics, one, is on managing staff turnover and reactive workflows. That has been really a key challenge. And starting this year alone, we have lost very key contact people. And so building a steady internal rhythm requires intentional team practices. Of course, this is expected due to the challenges, the cuts and the collapses that is already happening in this field. However, for you to be competent in the field, you need to have and manage high staff turnover, so that you don't, it's more of maintaining a good staff number, or rather than, keep employing and hiring is a very expensive process. To be real honest, number one, time consuming, you need to teach people to learn new things and all that. However, you also need to bring new blood into the organization, so that also the culture cannot be fixed or it's leaned towards a particular thing. You need to bring new blood so that also people can keep learning. However, maintaining good staff and reducing the staff turnover is a very key aspect. And Safi Organics demonstrates how social enterprises can create meaningful jobs in Kenya, particularly in this case, contributing to local economic development while staying mission-driven. So our mission is to empower smallholder farmers, even with the key challenges happening in the field, and the need to actually embrace and bring in other key players such as large-scale farmers, and also onboarding on agrovet. However, our mission still remains to be very clear that smallholder farmers are finding it very hard to buy affordable fertilizers, and Safi Organics is coming to bridge that gap. For example, this year alone, we said, we have been using a powder product. Why don't we make an organic granulated product, which we actually did. And this really brought a very, a shaky kind of environment within the organization, because number one, we are learning on a new machine. The sales team thinks, the production team is not doing the best that they can be able to do. The production team is also getting frustrated because, it's changing of how they're used to working to this new norm. It is for the best of the company. However, we have always needed to advise and train our own staff that, what is our mission? Our mission is to empower smallholder farmers through offering them a sustainable and a high quality organic fertilizer. So are we still on that track? Yes. So we are bringing them back to what is our mission, and now they have to stay within that space. However, we are still creating economic development, creating jobs for young people, and especially in the rural areas, just to ensure that these young youths, they can have a degree, create a decent available income in the rural areas, equivalent if they moved to the urban center. So averagely, we are not saying, we're increasing income or we're ensuring that youths have rural jobs. No, the point here is, do they have valuable and high quality jobs? Enough to convince them of why they should be working in the rural areas in the space of agriculture. And then to that point, accessing impact capital has also enabled us, as Safi Organic, to scale operations sustainably and align with growth and purpose, and invest in internal systems to strengthen team cohesion. So in this case, we did our first fundraising last year. This helped us to actually move from 6 tons to about the 20 tons that I'm talking today. So it is impact capital. It was not a grant, but it was more of investment. So it is capital, but it was addressed with an angle of what is how are we talking about the numbers in terms of sequestering CO2, how many hectares of land are we rejuvenating, how much capital are we in turnover, return on investment are we talking about, and what is the cash flow that is getting into the systems of the community in the rural area. So it's more of capital, impact capital. However, this also helped Safi Organics to scale sustainably and has set us in a path, to expand and bring in more investors and people to see, this thing is working. So what Safi Organics are doing is profitable, because we have been profitable since 2018, and we are buying in people who believe, agriculture is different in its own way. However, we are willing to invest because the bigger goal and the impact Safi Organics is doing is great. And so that means that we are bringing in a larger team to come and partner and work with us. However, they have to be aligned with the mission of empowering the smallholder farmers and always ready to learn, because it's a new product they are getting to the market. They also have to learn on the job, and previously, even the space and getting this expertise in the market is very minimal. So over to the team, and the question to the participant is, what is one shift you have made, big or small, that helped your team regain a sense of rhythm, trust, or shared purpose? So I would love to hear from different, from different participants, maybe share a case study about what you're experiencing within your own organization. Yeah.
Or it doesn't even have to be this question. It could just be anything that's on your mind related to any of the topics. Go ahead, Katie.
Thank you so much for facilitating the conversation. It's been very, very interesting, very true. It's resonated a lot. And this theme of rebuilding internal rhythm made me reflect that I think actually for us, all of this kind of like crisis of this year around funding has come at a time where it's not so much for us around rebuilding internal rhythm. We've actually, as a really small organization, it's been a crucial year for just us to build the internal rhythm. And I think in a way, like having, being in a phase of building during crisis means that you have to really kind of find a way to come together as a team and like hone in on internal communications, on on purpose, on your mission in a very like under pressure in a way. And so I think trying to find a bit of a silver lining in all of this, the experience of this year with our team, I think has made us implement some really strong internal communication practices that has helped us and hopefully will help us in the long run as well. So a little bit of a positive spin.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I agree. It's like in those moments where things fall apart, you find a way to put them back together or keep what's there still together. And it actually just in the end makes you stronger, kind of what Emiliano was saying as well. But yeah, it's an interesting time for sure. So I think we're gonna move on just to close it up on time. But like I mentioned at the beginning, if anybody has anything else that they want to add or other questions or anything at all, a couple of us will stay on past 3 p.m. Eastern. So if you wanted to stay on and contribute something else, feel free to do that. So just key takeaways here. I think it's really like we don't have all of the answers, but we do know that spaces like this with open conversation are really important, because I think I've felt inspired by what everybody has said, and just hearing what everybody's going through. I think it's also like there's a shared concern, but then there's also a shared purpose and kind of a shared motivation to continue and figure it out together. So community is really powerful in that way, and I'm really happy that everybody was able to join today. And I think it's also just remembering like everybody's emotional load is really real, and always taking that into consideration when we're kind of in these conversations or dealing with each other. I think that's always a good perspective to have. And then it's always about balance as well. We're all balancing and juggling a million different things here on top of the stress and the worry and figuring out how do we restructure internally or all these things. So yeah, I think this is kind of just how I wanted to feel after a conversation like this, is kind of just inspired and feeling like, okay, we're not in this alone. We have this community. So thank you so much, everybody. I want to keep the momentum going with you all. As the end of your busy season approaches, we at Sunflower are here to help you avoid that burnout and craft your communications that truly resonate with your stakeholders, whether it be, funders, or, you're applying for grants, or just general audience, your customers, clients, whoever it is. We want to help you avoid more burnout and just actually make that impact. So we want to invite you to join our strategic storytelling course. So you'll get access to proven tools, resources, and expertise plus a supportive community of peers and personalized guidance every step of the way. So Fabiola from El Directorio, Katie's organization, she took our course earlier this year, and she said, this course gave me clarity and structure to take my organization's communications to the next level. I learned how to design effective strategies and plan campaigns that actually generate results. So pretty much we want to offer this to you. It would be, you would get access to 4 modules on building your strong communication strategies, content, and campaigns, and you would get lifetime access to those modules. And it also comes with all of our templates and worksheets. And then we're going to do weekly live calls. So pretty much you would have access to hop on a call with us, the Sunflower team, the other participants. We can talk through your Q&A, key concepts from each module. And then there's also a community Slack group for networking and getting your questions answered in between calls. And kind of as you're doing the work in real time, you would have the Slack community to go and ask your questions, or we can even review what you've been doing as you're doing it. So you would get that personalized guidance and support. And then at the end, we will provide a certificate of completion. So we're offering a discount code for all of you on this live call today. Normally the course is $4.99 full price, but we're opening it up to you for $100 off. So this week it would be $3.99. And we're closing the enrollment in 1 week. And then the cohort will start September 25th. We'll kick it off with a welcome call, and then we'll do weekly calls after that. So there'll be a total of 5 calls. So we really hope that this would be helpful for you as we're kind of entering this end of year season. And this is for pretty much anyone that's on this call: entrepreneurs, freelancers, nonprofit staff, impact professionals, anyone and everybody. We're really talking about like communications foundations and how to set that strong strategy and kind of that building that strong foundation that I was speaking about in the beginning. This course is going to help you do that. And so we really want to kind of hold your hand through it, because of course everybody has a million other things going on and so many different things to worry about. And especially for those of you who have end of year campaigns, we want to help you do it easily without stress and having the tools, community, and resources to be able to do it. So Natalie is going to drop the link in the chat. She hasn't already. And so you can click on that link, learn a little bit more about the course, and you can also sign up there. And just don't forget to use the code at checkout, cohort 1, and you'll get all of that for just $3.99. So we really hope you can join us. We think it's going to be really fun and exciting, and I think it'll just be really great to help everybody get on track for your end of year communications. And like I said to you, you'll have lifetime access. So even if you can continue it for your campaigns next year or into the next year, you'll be able to continue using those resources. So thank you so much. Wow, 1 minute to spare. We are right on time. So we really appreciate you joining us and everybody for participating. I think it was a really great conversation. We're also recording it, so we'll send out the recording tomorrow. So you'll have that. You can share it with anybody else who you think would be interested. And yeah, we'll stay on for that Q&A, but otherwise, thank you so much. I don't know if Emiliano and Joyce, you want to say any last words?
Thank you. Great conversation.
Yeah, it was interesting to be joined by a number of people across the globe. And I'm really excited to continue the conversation, but it's okay to have, to step back. It's okay to reflect. It's okay to take off time off your schedule and just, reflect. And it's okay just to feel tired and take a break. So as long as you are eating, you're directly involved in agriculture. So do the best that you can be able to do. I'm a key advocate of agriculture. So everybody, during consumption, during either your farming or what, just ensure that that grain of rice that you take, it has been toiled a long way. It's a lot of hard work with a lot of love. So be a good consumer. And let's embrace food security.
Great reminder. Yes, take care of yourselves. Thank you so much, everybody. Please feel free to stay on if you have any other questions or comments or thoughts that you want to share with us. Me and Natalie will stay on, and anybody else as well. But otherwise, thank you so much, and we will be in touch. Does anybody have, as people are leaving, does anybody have any questions? Was anybody staying on for the Q&A? If so, you can come off mute. Let us know.
Hey guys, I just wanted to say thanks. It was an awesome talk. Yeah, a lot of the clients that I'm working with right now are just battling a lot of these things that we're talking about. So super relevant, and working on a new project that's really ambitious. I'm going to be leading a team potentially, and so I'm just trying to get as much information on how to make sure that people around me are also taken care of, and the team that we're hopefully building is not going to get burnt out, but it is kind of an ambitious goal. So just really appreciate all the insight today. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I'm glad it's helpful. Do
Yeah.
you want to share any details, or nope, no pressure at all? I'm just curious.
Probably can't yet.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, just overall, thank you and for putting this together. It's super helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. Cool. I'm glad it was helpful. Anybody else have a question or a thought or something that they wanted to ask? Or bye, Brandon.